Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. I hope you're having a great day because I have a great video planned for you. To give you a little bit of background, I was doing a little bit of research for another video that I was working on, but then I came across this article and it made me switch up completely and want to do this as a video instead and just do that other video another time. But the article is called, there's an Australian store called Target that has nothing to do with the American one, and the Australian one is way better. So that just caught my attention right away because I was on Target's Wikipedia page and saw that there was an Australian Target. That piqued my interest. And so I saw that it wasn't connected at all, but I'll get into that in a second. And I mean, this article is pretty popular. Like, it's the second thing that comes up on Google when you search Australian Target. And so the first thing I noticed about this article is obviously the Australian one is way better. So I was like, oh, interesting. It's way better. I guess so I was curious. So I read through the article to see like what was so great about it. And like after I read through it, I just had a couple qualms with it, you could say. But before I get into the actual article, I am just going to give you a little bit of brief history about the Australian Target. So if you could allow me to turn into the company man for a second. So if you're not from America, or you are American and somehow don't know what Target is or haven't been inside a Target, it's basically just like Walmart, except you feel a little bit more comfortable inside. And if you don't know what Walmart is, it's basically just a department store. I don't know what qualifies something as a department store, but it just sells like toys, school supplies, office supplies, camping stuff, guns. Walmart sells guns. Target doesn't sell guns. Clothes, that's a big one. Home decor. Basically anything you need, you can just stop at a Walmart or Target and you'll probably find it. And according to Wikipedia, that's right, I am a college student using Wikipedia as a source. Target Australia, formerly known as Lindsay's and later Lindsay's Target, is a mid-priced department store chain owned by Kmart Group, part of Australian retail conglomerate Wesfarmers. And this is like the really weird part. Despite the similar logo, name, and type of outlets, Target Australia carries no relation to the American discount retailer Target Corporation. I mean, look at these. It looks like the same store basically, like from the logo alone it's the same exact thing. I don't really know like what the ruling is on that, like who used it first and like why they're just able to use the exact same thing, but if anyone knows, let me know because that's just interesting to me. But without getting too deep into it, Target Australia was first opened in 1926 by a dude named George Lindsay and Alex McKenzie under what was then called Lindsay's after George Lindsay. In 1968, the name was changed to Lindsay's Target after a department store chain called Myer Emporium bought out the chain. Then in 1973, they finally dropped the Lindsay's to just call it Target as it is now. After a merger and a takeover, they're finally owned by their current owners, Wesfarmers, who also own Kmart Australia. Interesting. I'm pretty sure they actually used to be affiliated with the now almost defunct American Kmart, which surprisingly, as of a couple months ago, at least according to Wikipedia, has 19 stores left open still. If you don't know what Kmart is, if you're too young to know what Kmart was, it's basically just, it was kind of like Target before Target. I feel like it's been a while since I've been in a Kmart, but I feel like they didn't have as much of a selection as Target. I couldn't even tell exactly how many Target stores are left in Australia because I was kind of reading through the article, the Wikipedia article, and it looks like a lot of them are now either closing or turning into Kmart's. So I guess they're not doing too hot in Australia as opposed to over here, they're popping off. In that very brief history, we will now get back to the article. Like I said, I have a couple issues with what I read in the article. Just to preface, I've never been to Australia, so I've never been to an Australian Target. If in the off chance you're watching this and are Australian, I'm not doing this as a way to show my American dominance and like call out your stores for being inferior. I'm just taking this article that I found and calling it out some just like weird things that I think are like false or kind of just strange that we'll get into it. Just keep watching. This article was written by a lady named Kerrigan English. And let me just say, what a name that is. And surprisingly, I was trying to find if she had like an Instagram or anything. There are 2 people on Instagram with this exact same name. And they're 2 different people. I just think it's crazy that 2 people happen to have the last name English and 2 sets of different parents happen to name their kid Kerrigan. I've never heard that name before, but that's not like a knock or anything. That's just surprising to me. So I did end up finding her Instagram, and I requested to follow, and she accepted it in a few minutes, but she didn't follow me back. So I guess you could just consider this video of me tearing her article apart revenge. I'm just kidding. I went to her account, or page or whatever you call it, on Business Insider, the website that the article was published on, and she's written 3 articles that are basically exactly the same. Format wise, they are exactly the same as the Target one, at least like the titles and everything. I haven't really read through those ones, but I'm sure they're gonna be pretty similar. But hey, there's really no shame in that, because like if you have an idea that sticks, like why not run with it, you know? One other thing, I'm not doing this as a way to call out this girl for being a bad journalist. Obviously, I don't have any articles published in Business Insider. It's actually a well-written article. There were just a few things like content-wise that aren't even a big deal, honestly. I just like making a big deal out of nothing sometimes. Okay, so moving into the article. Basically, this girl went into Target Australia because she wanted to see how it compared to Target in America. This article is just talking about some of the differences, but then it also has pictures of the Target in Australia, and then she gives her opinion about each of the little sections. And those are the parts where I have my biggest qualms with it. Yeah, so as you can see, she says things like, on the outside, you see the all too familiar red and white Target logo, aside from the font of its sign being slightly different than in the US, and an additional period at the end of Target, the branding of the store is virtually identical. Virtually identical. So let's just keep that in mind. These things about these 2 Targets are virtually identical. So far they're tied, right? If you were to say one's better than the other, you couldn't, because they're virtually identical. She says, with one glance at the store, I was immediately thrown back in time to when Targets in the States merely sold clothes and home goods. I was surprised by the lack of a grocery section and the small size of the store. So she was surprised by the small size of the store. First of all, this picture, I just think it's funny. I feel like it looks kind of like the set of an SNL sketch that uses Target. They obviously couldn't use an actual Target, so they had to build a set that looks kind of like Target. This is kind of what that reminds me of. But going past that, she said she was surprised by the lack of a grocery section and the small size of the store. So those 2 things listed off. No grocery section, small size of the store. Not that small size of the store is necessarily a bad, but grocery section, like if you're gonna go to a place where you can like get all of your shopping done, you might think you want a grocery section, right? And there seemed to be a strong emphasis on the women's section, as it made up around 40% of the store and was placed in the center of the shopping floor. That's basically the same as Targets in America. There's way more women's clothing than men's clothing. Not that that's a big deal, but that, just keep in mind, that's another thing that's similar between these 2 Targets. Basically, all this stuff I'm skipping through it's basically standard for any Target or even just any store in general that's not Target. Okay, so you get through all that. This is where the article really starts to like get to me, if you can even call it that. She says the beauty section was not as developed as they are at US Targets, which are known for their illuminated cosmetic and bath section. So beauty section not as developed. No grocery section, beauty section not as developed. But then she tries to like save it by saying that despite the lack of dramatic flair, there are various forms of cosmetics and spa products. So they still have the products, it just doesn't look as nice and doesn't have as many products. Which, not to say it has to like look like aesthetically pleasing, but I feel like that's one of the parts of shopping. Like this picture, to me, this looks like Walmart. This little section, not even Walmart. I feel like even Walmart looks nicer than this. This looks like Big Lots. You know what Big Lots is? That's what that looks like. Interior designer would have felt right at home with this section. There's a home section, just like any other store. She talks about clearance. Both stores have clearance. Here she says the prices at the Australian Target were surprisingly fair in comparison to American Target prices. She does say that the prices are a little bit cheaper, and I know Australian dollars are worth more, am I saying that right, than American. So something might look like it costs more in Australia, but actually converted it can be less, just with like the currency or whatever. I don't know exactly how that works. She does say that the prices are a little bit cheaper in the Australian Target. Keep that in mind as well. Just keep all these things I'm saying, keep everything in mind. This next part, you need to get ready for this next part. So, you know how most Targets have an electronics section, right? Like, I don't know, there's aisles and aisles, there's a TV wall in the back. You thinking about it, there's cameras, there's phones, there's phone accessories, there's video games, there's cameras. Did I say cameras? I think I did. Think about that, right? Well, check out this electronics section.
Bruh.
And,
Bruh.
dude, I don't know why this is so funny to me, but like this looks like some shit you'd see in like a Walgreens pharmacy as an electronics section. Like, once again, I'm not trying to call out Australia, because like if this is all they can have, this is all they can have. But I just think it's funny that it's just so condensed. Like, there's barely even anything in there. I don't know, it's basically just small accessories. And even herself, she says everything that's non-clothing was very cramped and didn't offer many options. So another negative thing about this Target. Books looks more like its familiar US counterpart, blah 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 blah. But also they have some like lined up like this, like not like facing out, but they have them like you'd put them on a shelf like in your house, which I've never seen a Target here in America where the books are like that. Because I feel like if you want to sell it more, you need to be able to see the cover. Might not have a grocery section, might not have a developed beauty section. Electronics might look like garbage, but they do have a birthday card section, right? This looks exactly like America. I really have to give the Australian Target this. These birthday cards make me feel like I'm back in the States, right? She talks about this bamboo and cotton sheet set. So she said the prices were lower, which I believe her in some cases, but this, she says, there were a few high quality goods up available. Okay, there's just a typo. There's a missing word. There were a few high-quality goods up available purchase. Probably meant for purchase. For example, a bamboo and cotton sheet set will set you back about $65 in the US. And I just want to do this conversion real quick to make sure I'm not going crazy. This article was written in 2019, by the way, so not that long ago, only a couple years. She says it'll set you back about $65 in the US. 65 US dollars is the same as 87.80 in Australian dollars, but in the picture it says it's 95.20. So I guess I'm just confused because that's less. She's basically saying you're paying more in America, but then the picture and what she said actually is less. Like I said, I'm sure there's some things that do cost less, but this is a case where that just doesn't match up with what she was saying. This part really gets me going. She says she found a customer service counter at the back of the store and the employees were very polite and helpful. Okay, in comparison to the US, this was a breath of fresh air. Okay, first of all, let me just say, obviously I haven't been to an Australian Target, but she's acting like every Target in America, the employees just suck ass. She's saying that these employees were very polite and helpful, as if she's never been to a Target in America that has had polite and helpful employees. Sure, there might be a couple bad ones, but there could be a couple bad ones in Australia too. You can't base your entire judgment of Targets in Australia and America based off of this one visit you had with this one. And she also said, in comparison to the US, where these stations are normally crowded and there is no employee in sight. Okay, normally crowded, like, that's not Target's fault that there are people in the store. I'd understand if there are registers not being used and they could get more people up there, but it's not Target's fault that usually there's one person up at guest services and people like shopping at the store and need to return things to the store. Like, she's acting like that's Target's fault that the store gets busy. Also, she says about US stores, or there is no employee in sight, but the picture she used of the customer service there's no employee. So and I'm sure they just aren't in the picture, but I just think that's funny. That's just kind of ironic, right? She says free Wi-Fi was also available to customers as they perused the store. With the click of a button, I was connected to high-speed internet, a luxury that's not always present in America. Yeah, not always present in America. Well, it is present in Target. Go to any Target, at least any Target where I live, and there's free Wi-Fi. I don't know why she's acting like Targets in America don't have free Wi-Fi, because everyone I've been to does have it. And she also says a luxury not always present in America, as if now she's just comparing it to any store or just anywhere in America, when Targets do have it. That just seems strange to me that she's doing that. She says she found self-checkout kiosks, same as American Target, where customers could pay by cash or card. I think it's funny that she specifically says by cash or card. I don't know if there are places in Australia that only take cash or only take card, but I feel like that's pretty standard, at least in America, to be able to pay with cash or card. Another annoying thing about her article, she says, after choosing my kiosk, I paid for my item just like I would in the US, so she doesn't steal. A kind voice instructed me through the payment process, a stark contrast from the harsh tone I've gotten from machines in the US. This is another place she just says from machines in the US. And I don't know if she's talking about just Target or about American stores in general, but she says if you've been scolded before for neglecting to place your item in the bagging area, you know what I mean. But Target self-checkout doesn't do that. You don't need to put your item in the bagging area to keep going. You could scan it and just keep holding it, and it'll let you scan the next item. Like, out of the stores I've been to, Target's is probably the easiest to check out your items. Because I know Baker's, which is owned by Kroger, Walmart, maybe even like Hy-Vee, which is just another grocery store here. Those are all way more complicated as a self-checkout can be, and those are the ones that say like, oh, put your item in the bagging area. Targets don't do that. So I just feel like it's a little incorrect of her to be writing this article when there's just information that just isn't right in it. And she says a kind voice in stark contrast to the harsh tone. I don't remember exactly what the self-checkout says, but I'll see if I can get a clip.
Remember to grab your receipt. Thanks. See you again soon.
But it's far from a harsh tone. Like, it doesn't even talk until you are done checking out. And it says, like, thanks, see you again soon, or something. It's like she's comparing it, but not fairly. Like, she's making up these things about American Targets or putting ideas in her head that she's maybe had at other American stores and, like, linking it with American Targets when really that's not the case with Target. It's just these other stores. Okay. Now we are to the conclusion of the article. Hopefully I can get through this fast. My camera is about to die. She says, as a whole, Target Australia was not drastically different than the stores in the US. Okay, let's just go through these things that I can remember. No grocery section, less variety of clothes. She says electronics section isn't as good, beauty section isn't as good. She says, I still preferred my experience in Target Australia to my Target experiences in the US. What? I guess I just don't it's like, if the article wasn't titled and the Australian Target is better or whatever it was, this would have blown my socks off. Literally everything in the article is pointing to the Targets here being better. She says Target Australia has a friendlier staff, lower prices, and an easily navigable. Is that how you say that? Whereas Targets in the US are often crowded, hard to navigate, and more expensive. And friendlier staff, let's go back for a second. I basically stated already, just because this one store happened to have a friendlier staff doesn't mean that every Target in Australia has an amazing staff, or that maybe you just haven't been to a Target or have been to a Target. Not to brag or anything, but if you come to my Target, you'll have like literally everyone be greeting you. Everyone's gonna be asking if you need help with something. And like, it's gonna be so helpful. It just depends on which one you go to. Then the easily navigable layout, she doesn't really even talk about that in the article at all. She says that there's like sections like with names with like labels. That's like any Target, like literally any store. There's like the things in the air that say like bedding, toys, whatever. She literally says Targets in the US are hard to navigate. What do you mean it's hard? It's like a big square. How is that hard to navigate? Hard to, like, literally just walk around the Target and you'll probably find what you're looking for. And if not, find an employee and ask them to help you. I know I'm getting way more upset about this than I should, but it just like, annoys me. And she says often crowded. I get, sure, maybe that's a reason you'll prefer the Australian one, but like, it's not Target's fault that if it's crowded. It's a popular store. People like shopping there. You like shopping there. So it wouldn't be fair if you could shop there, but other people can't. Like, do you want Target to be like, sorry, you have to wait out here while Kerrigan finishes her shopping? I don't know. I get that just doesn't seem like a valid argument to me to say it's often crowded, so that's a reason that this store is better than this one. She doesn't even say, oh, Target Australia is, I mean, it's slightly better. It's a little bit better. She says Target Australia stands the clear winner. After all this stuff she talks about, after electronics section sucks ass, beauty section not as good, no grocery section, I don't know, all this other stuff she says, Target Australia is the clear winner. And okay, maybe lower prices, that is like the only argument that is valid. But even so, who's to say that she even knows what the prices of the American Targets are? Sure, maybe a couple of the things she found looked like they were cheaper in Australia than in America, but that doesn't mean every single thing is cheaper in Australia. Maybe everything is cheaper in Australia. So if anything, that is to me the only valid argument why possibly Target in Australia is better. Who knows, maybe one day I'll go to Australia, maybe one day I'll go to a Target and it'll blow my mind with how much better it is. I just think it's funny how everything in the article sounded like it was leading to the one in US being better, but then she just says the one in Australia is better, and like, I don't even know why. I don't know what she gains from saying the one in Australia is better. So it's just strange to me how you could have all these negatives and things that are worse about it, but then come to the conclusion that it's better. I don't know. Like I said, this video is pretty pointless. Kerrigan, I'm sure you're a great gal. Maybe we can collab sometime. I'm a journalism student. I don't really like it that much, but I'm doing it. I apologize if I've offended any Australians. I just wanted to talk about it. I thought I'd make at least somewhat of an entertaining video. I have no hate for anybody. That's basically it. I hope you enjoyed watching. If you are new here and you thought this video was kind of stupid but also entertaining, why not subscribe? Why not like? Why not watch all of my other videos? I don't know what that was, but yeah. Have a great day.